India just dropped a bombshell, and it is something to see. Okay, so in my last video, in my three big story segment, I was talking about how, look, India has a choice to make. It's going to either go with Russia with its oil cheap, or it's going to go with the West. And its number one trading partner is the United States. But India was slapped at the US and at Europe. Look at this. This is a statement by the official spokesperson from India. This is mea.gov.in. Okay, so India has been targeted by the United States and the European Union for importing oil from Russia after the commencement of the Ukraine conflict. Okay, we all know that India is soaking up as much of that sweet, sweet Russian oil as it can because it's cheap. They're getting it for a discount rate. Everybody understands that. But India is saying, hey, look, rest of the world, you're doing it too. So stop being hypocritical. Let's continue. In fact, India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. I'm thinking that's pretty fair. I think that there was a lot of shifting about what happened, and India may have added more to that after the conflict began. Okay, let's look at this. The United States at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy market stability. I'm not sure about that. It doesn't sound like U.S. policy under the Biden administration, but if you know anything about that and you can fact check it, put it in the comments below. Okay, point number 2. India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. Okay, obvious, pretty clear. This is what India is trying to do in spite of what Russia's doing to Ukraine through the oil revenues and military. They're going to do right by Indian consumers. Okay, that's like lacking the morality, but that's what they're doing. I can see that. Okay. They are a necessity compelled by global market situation. However, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. It's about to be on. India is throwing the gloves down here because, like, what India is doing, they're saying, well, you're doing it too. And you're doing it too, and you're doing it too, and you're doing it too, and you're doing it too. So why are you penalizing India? Let's continue. The European Union in 2024 had a bilateral trade of euro 67.5 billion in goods with Russia. Now that's just absurd. I mean, it's not that it's wrong. It's absurd that Russia is still trading, Europeans are still trading with Russia. So now they're not trading with oil to nearly the same degree, but whether you're trading with oil or something else, that's not the point, right? And I understand that there's a difference between trading, say, parts that can be used for military and other electronic parts that are non-military purposes. I understand that there's that, but it's still helping the Russians in their attack on Ukraine. So, I mean, they're not wrong. In addition, it had trade in services estimated at euro 17.2 billion in 2023. This is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year or subsequently. About that. So what India is saying is that, like, if you really want to call a spade, stop talking about our trade in oil when your trade is even more with Russia. Europeans import of European imports of liquefied natural gas in 2024, in fact, reach a record of 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of 15.21 million tons in 2022. So, yeah, Europeans are still soaking up cheap Russian energy. And so if we're just talking about oil, and I'm not sure exactly how the tariffs will play out, if it's just going to be oil or if it'll be oil and gas, which it should be, and if it does, it's going to hit Europeans just like it's going to hit Indians and Chinese and whatever else. And we should be looking at all trade with Russia and what the impact is of all trade with Russia. It's not just oil. It's not like that's just magical in and of itself. Okay, Europe Russia trade includes not just energy, but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron, steel, machinery, and transport equipment. Like, they're not wrong. All this trade is helping the Russian bottom line. And Europe, if you really want to help Ukraine, you don't just arm the Ukrainians and then buy stuff from Russia, which goes to their bottom line, which they use to then attack Ukrainians. So they're not wrong about this. And they're calling a spade a spade. And I think this is showing that they're not wanting to go where the U.S. Secondary sanctions are going to send them very shortly. Now, this gets really interesting for the U.S. as well. Where the United States is concerned, it continues to import Russian uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers, as well as chemicals. Yep, it's not just Europe. US, you probably ought to. Now, the US trades a whole lot less with Russia, but it should not be trading with Russia. I mean, if this is what's going on, it's not money for the bottom line that turns into tanks and ammunition and such doesn't just come from oil. So we need to be paying attention to this. In this background, the statement concludes, the targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. Well, hey, they made a pretty compelling case that, like, you can't just do this to us and not look at what's going on. Look in the mirror and look at what's going on. Like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. So that's the statement from the Ministry of External Affairs in India. So as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, and I had some criticism from someone who said, "Look, you're missing it, Professor. Like, look at how much Europe is trading with Russia, and you're just not seeing the whole picture here when you're just talking about oil." That's fair. And we should be calling that out as well. Anyone who's trading with Russia is supporting what's happening to Ukraine, at least indirectly. So tell me what you think about this when you saw this statement and what the Indians said. Now, I don't know that this is going to change what India is going to do because Trump's kind of playing hardball with them and he wants to do this with tariffs, I think. I think he really wants the tariffs. And so I don't know if it'll peel the Indians off, but they really have made a great case for why the world needs to stop doing what the world's doing. Put your comments in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.